Good day, everybody. Welcome to Dr. Tom's Tips on Tuesdays at 10 in 10. It's December. Holy cow. Hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving and really excited to be back here. Hello, Dr. Hirsch. How the heck are you?
Hello, Rolando. And you know what? On December 10th, that'll be my birthday. 10 on 10.
Awesome. So, the purpose of Dr. Tom's Tips is to share the experience that he's had. Today's topic has to do with understanding the morphology of the Isolite mouthpiece and understanding circumstances when, even with the range of mouthpieces we have, there are going to be times where you're going to have to do some adjustments on this. So, Dr. Hirsch, what are some of the tips that you would give with regard to utilizing those mouthpieces and those edge cases where you might have to adjust it somehow?
Hey, good morning, everybody. Great to be here. Great to be with you on the first day of December. That's a fabulous question, Rolando, and it's a question that I've been asked 1,000 times at 1,000 different conventions. You and I have done so many conventions together, and we've had people come up and pose the questions, well, what size mouthpiece do I use, and when do I do this, and when do I do that, and what happens if it doesn't fit, and what happens if it pinches here and it pinches there. So that was a huge, huge question. So first of all, I want to say, we have a family of mouthpieces. We have 6 different mouthpieces from which to choose from. And these mouthpieces weren't just designed to make one a little bit bigger, one a little bit smaller, one a little longer. They were specifically designed in mind with the shape and the anatomy and the morphology of the mouth. Starting out with the first medium mouthpiece, we virtually, at that point in time, looked through hundreds of different mouth shapes to design the proper shape of the mouthpiece. And then as we went on to add another mouthpiece to our family, we would look at thousands of models of the mouths that I had taken, thousands of impressions and thousands of models put together on articulators to see what was the right amount of measurement, what was the right length, what was the right height in the palatal vault, what was the right height in the floor of the mouth, how much should this curve. And so in doing that, we came up with our 6 different sizes, starting out with the original medium mouthpiece, going off to a small mouthpiece, going to a large mouthpiece, a pediatric mouthpiece, an extra small mouthpiece, and a medium DV mouthpiece. Now, even though they're similar, and even though they all do the same purpose, they're just designed around certain areas of the mouth. And as we have continued to develop and modify and change these mouthpieces, every now and then we'll sit down there and we'll have the new medium mouthpiece or the new extra small mouthpiece. And what that does is that's just incorporated a modification that we've made in the mouthpiece to make the mouthpiece more comfortable and fit better. But with all of the incorporations that we have, maybe 2 or 3% of the time as you choose a mouthpiece and you put it in the mouth, the patient just kind of shakes a little bit. They kind of wince a little bit. And that's an indication that something's bothering them. And so I've asked them the question, well, I've tried it in, and does that bother you? And sometimes it'll be a yes, and sometimes it'll be a no. Sometimes, if I let's take the medium mouthpiece here. Sometimes if I take the medium mouthpiece and I put it in the mouth on a patient, the mouthpiece right at the alveolus, right at the on the lingual aspect of the palate right there, will dig in a little bit. And that's because of the way that I placed it. So if I put it in the mouth, and I can feel it digging in right over here on the palate, I know that that's an issue. Maybe my first instinct would be, hey, I'm going to take this thing out and I'm going to cut it where it's pinching a little bit. But better yet, all that I have to do is put this in the mouth and really move the bite block back a bit further. And when I do that, it turns out it no longer pinches. So where I thought I might have to trim, I don't have to.
So hold on. So that's great to know, because you're right. We've been asked so many times, well, can't I just cut it? Well, I guess because of the anatomy of a person's mouth, you could adjust, at first, you could slightly adjust it, and it'll fit better, right?
Sure. So absolutely, you can trim it, but because I have 6 different sizes, I find that most of the time I don't have to. And maybe it was just me, or maybe it was my assistant just putting it in at the wrong spot. And all I need to do is back the bite block up 1 tooth. So from here, by moving it back, not only A, does it not impinge where it used to impinge, but B, lost my train of thought. It doesn't impinge where it has to, but B, it gives you more working room. So these were specifically designed with a specific size, with a specific shape in mind. Now, do I ever trim? Sure.
Yeah,
once in a great while I do.
You have to sometimes, right?
You have to. You know, it's a question. Hamlet said, to be or not to be? That is the question. Oh, we could go on. 'Tis nobler in the minds to suffer the slings and the arrows of outrageous fortune. No. Back to this. To trim or not to trim, that is the question. Most of the time, no. You don't have to trim it. But once in a great while, you're going to find that to be the case. When do I find that to be the case? Usually, it's with a gagger. If I have to trim anything at all, it's with a gagger, because anything that touches the palate of a patient's mouth, of a gagger's mouth, can make them gag. So yeah, that might be one of the instances where I trim. Okay, so let's do this. Let's take let's just take this medium mouthpiece right here. And I use a pair of scissors to trim, usually crown and collar scissors, crown and bridge scissors. Got a tiny little curve on the end right here. Right there. And if I have to trim, first of all, I'm going to look in the mouth and I'm going to see where it is pinching. So the one area that I said was right here in the front of the mouth. So let's say I've used a medium mouthpiece. And if you look at this, right at the tip right there, that's the area that it would be digging in. So we have modified several of our mouthpieces. So this is rounded over right in through here. But let's say I'm going to trim it. So crown and bridge scissors, just take it like this. And it's a tiny trim. It's just a tiny, tiny trim is all I have to do. And I've actually trimmed that down. And I've got right into the bite block right there. You know, just if there's a sharp corner or sharp edge right there, cut it off. But you can see there's not much of a difference from that side to the other side. So therein lies the amount that I might trim if it was digging in on the palatal vault. Sometimes a patient has a high retromolar pad, so sometimes I might have to go back and just trim a little bit right in through here, right where the little isthmus is. And even if I'm cutting through the holes like that with little crown and bridge scissors.
Put it a little higher. There you go.
Yeah, it's not much of a trim. It's a little bit like that. I mean, you can see there from one side to the other. And it's a minor little trim. You don't have to do a lot. This is not one of these things where, oh my gosh, I've got a gagger. And all of a sudden, you don't need crown and bridge scissors, by the way. You can use regular scissors. Oh, wow, I've got a gagger. Just let me get rid of this whole thing like this. Well, you know what?
No.
That will solve the problem, number one, but that creates another potential of something bypassing this area and going down the throat. And so this is a fine balancing. This is not carte blanche. Go cut the hell out of the thing and just get rid of it. Be mindful with what you're doing. It's just like your dentistry. You're mindful of your preparation. I mean, if you need 1.5 millimeters of reduction, you don't take 3 millimeters of reduction. You don't take 4 millimeters of reduction just to create the space, because anytime that you overdo something, it just opens up a whole new can of worms. So does Xyrus recommend mouthpiece trimming? Well, we're a class 1 medical device designed specifically to protect, to isolate, to evacuate, all these things in mind. That's what we do. That's why we as a company have 6 different size mouthpieces. We don't just have one size. We don't have 2 sizes. We don't have 3 sizes. We have 6 sizes. 6. And it's important. So when you're ordering mouthpieces, make sure that you have all of your sizes. And you will hone your practice in over time to sizes that you never need. I've heard tell of some practices that, hey, all I ever order are medium DV mouthpieces, and then I trim them. You know what? It's really easy to have the right mouthpiece there ready to go. You don't have to have one mouthpiece that's just standard for everything and trim it. Here's an important factor also. Here's tip number 2 so tip number 1 for the day is choose the right mouthpiece. And if you do have to modify it, little tiny increments, tiny increments, not great big gigantic things. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2.
So actually, it's number 3. Tip number 2 is you can put it in the mouth, and you can adjust it slightly so it's not uncomfortable.
Exactly. Okay, and then tip number 3, if you happen to be doing any mandibular procedures, use the medium DV mouthpiece. Medium DV, deep vestibule. It goes down into the floor of the mouth, so if you're working on tooth 30, 31, it's out of the way. I just did it this morning. I did an onlay this morning, and it was out of the way.
Awesome. So thank you for that. I love the idea that if it's first uncomfortable, adjust it slightly.
Yeah.
Don't use the same size and try to adjust it, because we do have the range. So I love that. And then also, this is really important. If you have to, on those 1 or 2%, 3%, make it small so you don't lose your coverage.
Be mindful. Be mindful. You don't have to trim it, but be mindful.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
Folks, if you like this content, please share it. If you have questions for us like this, please send them in. Dr. Hirsch is more than happy to. We don't get out into the shows as much, but this is a perfect forum and an opportunity to ask questions, get feedback, get advice, and get tips from Dr. Tom, who is more than happy to share it. Thank you, sir. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody. Good talking to you, and see you back here next Tuesday at 10.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Have a great week. Take care, everyone.
Bye now.